podcast. I hope I'm moving my hands the right way. Oh my goodness, I actually am kind of gesturing to the sign. I'm so proud of myself. I'm Kelsey. I will go over characters. So, what we're doing today on this podcast, with me, is we are going to talk about some characters that I don't feel like I mention very often, I guess, on this podcast, and just aren't kind of mentioned in general. We have, oh gosh, I'm gonna screw up this number, 36 townspeople? Yes, around that number, 30 some. So sometimes they don't all get the spotlight like some others do. So I figured I would introduce you guys to some people who aren't quite as well known. I do have a bachelor and a bachelorette. I have the two that I feel like I don't talk about very often. So I'm going to talk about them now. I'm gonna go away here because I'm introducing you to Ben. All right, this is my first character, y'all. This is Ben Andrews. He's 43 years old. And he is your weatherman on MDTV News, which is your local television station in Bedford Valley. He used to be an investigative reporter, but after realizing that the area that you live in pretty much has nothing to investigate ever, he decided to hang up his journalistic hat and become a meteorologist instead. Nobody's actually sure if he's qualified to be a meteorologist, but he will tell you the weather anyway. His personality is he's a happy man. He takes his job very seriously. However, he can get really annoyed with his anchor, Charlie Vane, who you will be seeing some of as well, who comes into, he's always the guy who introduces the weather segment, and they have a little back and forth. So hopefully weather will be kind of a fun time. And we do have a little story going through weather. So once we have the TV on, you'll want to pay attention to the weather. Places to find him is, he's kind of an odd case since he doesn't actually live in town. So you know how I said there's 30 some people in town? He's not one of them. Yay! He actually, you can't talk to him face to face though, because he really likes going to the dog and horse races. So you'll always see him at those festivals. But if you really want to find Ben Andrews that badly, just turn on your television and he will always tell you the weather, no matter the time of day, because for some reason, whenever you turn on the news, it's always the weather. So yeah, that's Ben Andrews. I like the fact that his head is shiny. It's my favorite. He also just looks like a very happy individual. I think his mouth kind of looks like it's going into an abyss. Anyway, so yeah, that's Ben. He's my first character. Woo! So you guys will see him sometimes, maybe, not always, but alas. Anyway, going on to an actual member of town, here's Jack. Jack is 44, and he is a proud owner of Brant's Woodworks, a company outside of town that, well, as the name suggests, works with wood. When it comes to business, the player will be mostly associating with Jack in order to upgrade properties on his farm. So, you know, barns, chicken coop, your house, greenhouse, things like that. However, when it comes to associating with him for pleasure, you might not want to do that. You might want to just avoid Jack. That's because Jack is really obsessed with wood and carving and building and anything associated with his profession whatsoever. You will barely ever catch him talking about anything else, and he will go on about it forever. Half the time, he doesn't even remember who you are. He's not a very beneficial person. So to get Jack to like you, you give him wood. Yeah, that sounds right. Yes. You give him things, stones. He likes stones, not as much as wood, but he technically builds with stones. He thinks that they're the inferior wood, though. That's what he calls stone. A lot of people in town avoid Jack, you know, proceed with caution. As you can see, he is very buff because all he does is chop down wood and then carve it all day. And you will find him pretty much at his house, which is the Woodworks, at all times with his apprentice Vince, who I will actually be introducing to you guys later. Yeah, that is Jack. And he is a man, and he has no eyes. Actually, Jack's expressions are really funny because he has no eyes in them, which I don't know why I find that amusing, but I do. Anyway, moving on. This is Carl. Hey Carl, what's up? Anyway, Carl is 44. He's one of the owners of the general store in Bedford. As the name suggests, the general store sells, well, general items, seeds, ingredients, kitchen utensils, pretty much anything that you don't think that there is a specific store for, that's going to be at the general store. Anyway, Carl is the proud parents of Will and Jessica, who are both eligible to marry. While Carl's a very nice individual, he's also a doormat, a really well-worn, ratty doormat. Due to Carl's inability to stand up for himself, he's often walked all over on by his family and friends, and he can never seem to get a word in edgewise. As such, he almost always has a blush of some kind on his face, though in this image he does not because he looks somewhat confident here. But he apologizes a lot and stutters a lot, but he's very happy when you buy things from his store, so buy things from his store. Anyway, moving on. Here is Linda. She is our bachelorette of the day. I know a lot of people know of Linda, but I feel like I don't talk about her very often, so that's kind of why I decided to have her be my least known bachelorette. Anyway, colorfully minded, my favorite bitchy best friend. Yes. Linda is actually the youngest anybody who's eligible. She's 19. Her full name is, and I'm going to try to do this, I'm terrible at reading, Rosalind Gwynn Cleoya Underhill. She's also known as Linda for short, as you can see, is the daughter of Mayor Underhill and his wife Rosalind. She lives in Bedford Valley and has all her life, and as such, the environment has certainly rubbed off on her. She especially takes after her mother, which means that Linda isn't always a present person to be around. There's really no way to put it nicely. Linda is stuck up and rude, especially to people whom she doesn't feel like deserves her respect, which is pretty much anyone and everyone. She loves to gossip about others and generally make people feel uncomfortable with themselves. However, despite appearing very, very vain, it actually takes a lot of effort for Linda to even accept a gift from you. I won't go into this too much, but Linda works a little bit differently than other bachelors and bachelorettes. Bush says, make her yours so her mother can hate you even more. Yes. Linda can be found all around town, but she's forced to remain in town hall a lot because she helps man the receptionist desk, usually. Superwatch, which characters are gender exclusive? I'm hoping to kind of just have a podcast that's actually about that, because I feel like it deserves a little bit more time than me quickly running through a list. Colorfully Minded said, because I kind of want to marry her to spite her mother. Everybody wants to spite Rosalind. That is a good thing. Everybody should spite Rosalind. I would very much like to enjoy that. Yeah, that's Linda. She's just kind of a terrible person, but I love writing her, and she loves hating everyone, so it's pretty great. Anyway, this is LuAnn. She is actually Linda's grandmother. What do you know? And she's also a reverend. Reverend LuAnn Knight is the local pastor in town who looks after Bedford's surprisingly impressive church. As you can guess by her hair, she's also Rosalind's mother and Linda's grandmother. However, she doesn't seem to have the same nasty streak that the rest of them have. Rather, LuAnn lives up to her title as reverend and is actually a nice person. She's a kind-hearted individual who goes out of her way to help those in need. She enjoys knitting and other grandmotherly things, as she calls them. However, you'll want to be careful. Once she starts talking about herself, LuAnn tends to talk and talk and talk forever. Places to find her, you can mostly find her in the church and all of that. Oh, Colorfully Minded, I was going to ask, is there a way to make certain characters know you're not interested in them? Like, maybe you want to give someone gifts, but in a platonic way? Yes, there is a way to do that. Once we have that system a little bit more in place, I'll explain it a little bit more. There will be a point with anybody who is eligible where you can take a platonic route or you can take a romantic route. LuAnn, she seems too nice to be the mother of that creature. Become really close to her so she will call you son. That will piss off Rosalind. I love that everybody hates Rosalind so much. This makes me so happy. She makes quite the impression that first time you really talk to her. Colorfully Minded, Rosalind is a horrible person. Yes. Rosalind is not a very nice, and she is fun to hate. We'll say goodbye to Rosalind's mother for now, though. And we'll go on to the bachelor that I wanted to talk a little bit more today. This is Stefan Gills. He's one of the four Gill's children. As the second oldest, he helps run the ranch by operating the animal store where you can buy animal goods and your livestock. He has an older brother, Edward, and two younger siblings, Panka and Ponko, who are twins. Stefan is a somewhat awkward but sweet guy who's obsessed with reading and technology. However, as many of you have probably realized if you've played the build a little bit and meet Claude for the first time, technology just does not like to work well in Bedford Valley. Claude can't really figure out why, and as such, you will often find him, Stefan, reading a book rather than being on anything technological because he can't do that. Chaos, I don't trust his glasses. They show his true self, a white void. This game's actually all about voids, guys. Ben Andrews has the void into his mouth. Stefan has the void into his glasses. Anyway, he has a habit of nicknaming people based off their personality, status, or demeanor. For example, he will call you LuAnn. That is your name for all time, pretty much. And he also likes to use big words and has kind of fancy speech. Since he runs the animal store, you'll naturally find him there whenever it's open. Other than that, he's pretty much in his room reading or playing video games. And yeah. Chaos says, that would be a neat thing if there were changing stats that would change your nickname. Ooh, that's actually a pretty good idea, Chaos. I think we could do that. Anyway, this actually takes us to our last person tonight. It's Vince. So I mentioned Vince before. He is Jack's very, very enthusiastic apprentice. He has been living at the Brant house ever since his apprenticeship began, and it doesn't seem like it's going to be ending anytime soon at all. Vince is very much like his master to almost an alarming extent. While he does seem to understand that life does exist outside of crafting wood, he doesn't seem to want anything to do. He will keep it straight that you are in fact a farmer. Jack thinks that you're actually the doctor for a while. He's just as bad. He's really just as bad. Anyway, and you'll find him wherever Jack is because they pretty much almost never leave each other's sides because they always are working on something and just have a house in the middle of nowhere where they do crazy projects. One of the trends you'll see if you do their daily dialogue is whenever they have a project they're trying to complete, they do a bet, but the bets are just like really ridiculous. It's like, if we don't finish this in time, we have to sit in the ocean in winter for 2 hours. And there's like things like that. Jack and Vince in a house in the middle of nowhere, winky face. Yeah. That's all I'll say, yeah. Will we see them carry out with the bet? Oh gosh, Oro, I really wish we could do that. I don't think we'll be able to. Actually, wait a second. There is a bet you see them carry out. Never mind, that's all I'll say. You won't see them carry out every bet, but there are certain bets that you will see happen if you engage with them correctly. Bush, who are the bachelorettes that the male character can't date other than the sexy nurse? Maya is the only female-only option in the game. Anyway, well, I kind of think that's all for me. Gone Wild Season gone wild. Anyway, I think that is all for me. So, thank you guys so much for joining me. Again, I'm Kelsey. I do all sorts of stuff with the company, but mostly I'm the writer. And, I guess I will see you all next week. Thank you. Bye-bye.